Welcome back, students. Last time we discussed the various types of specialized cells we might find in a multicellular organism. Today, we will begin to discuss how these various types of cells are organized to do work for the organism. Let's begin with the concept that in multicellular organisms, similar cells are organized into groups called tissues. For example, like we see here in this picture, recall that these long rope-like cells are muscle cells. So if we are to take many muscle cells together, we would form them into a muscle tissue. As a tissue, this group of cells can accomplish a specific task, which in the case of the muscle tissue is to create movement. Now, the same thing is true of all the other specialized cell types that we described last time. And I've shown all these cell types grouped as tissues in the pictures below. Let's identify some of these tissues along with the job that the cells in the tissue work together to perform. The first series on the left is a series of animal tissues, and we'll start with the muscle tissue, which we've already identified. These cells will work together to contract or shorten to create movement. Below that, I've got an example of nervous tissue. You can see many neurons in this picture that are connected with each other in order to transmit information and carry messages throughout the body. Next, below that, I've shown you an example of how many epithelial cells can stack together to make epithelial tissue, which can be used to cover various internal and external surfaces. Finally, our last animal tissue on this slide is connective tissue. And connective tissue is a very versatile tissue which is found throughout the body. It is made of many cells which are embedded in either stretchy or sturdy fibers, and this type of tissue is used to create structure and support throughout the body. On the other side of this slide, on the right side, I've also included some examples of plant tissues. We can't forget that plants are also complex organisms just like animals are. And so therefore they're also going to have specialized cells which can be organized into tissues. Some examples of plant tissues include dermal tissues, which are found on the outside surfaces of plants and they're designed to provide protection. Plants also have tissues called vascular tissues, and we would find these in the stems and the leaves for transporting water throughout the organism. We also have ground tissue. And we'd find ground tissue composing the parts of the leaves where photosynthesis takes place, as well as any areas the plant uses for storage and support. All right, so now we've reviewed the basic types of animal and plant tissues, and we've identified the basic tasks that each of those tissues perform. However, many of the tasks that an organism must perform every day to survive are actually very complex. And because they're so complex, they will require multiple tissues to work together to achieve the goal of the task. When we have many tissues organized to work together, the structure they form is called an organ. So, let's take your heart as an example of an organ. The heart's job is to pump blood. This is a task that requires multiple tissues. So first, it needs muscle tissue to create the movement that is required to contract and relax the heart. But It also requires nervous tissue to send signals about when and where the heart should be contracting. Additionally, we need some epithelial tissue to cover and protect the surfaces, as well as connective tissue to hold the whole organ together. All of these tissues working together as an organ can accomplish the complex task of pumping blood, but no single tissue on its own can accomplish the task. In the pictures below, I've shown you some more examples of animal organs you may be familiar with. They include things such as the lungs, and the stomach, and the kidneys, and the liver. Those ones I'm sure you're very familiar with from your prior studies in science. However, this list also does include things that you might forget about, like the eye, for instance, would be an organ. Your skin is an organ. Your blood vessels are organs. Even down here, your skeletal system, the bones in your skeletal system are all organs. Additionally, we can't forget that plant tissues are also organized into organs. So some plant organs you may be familiar with include leaves, flowers, roots, and so on. All structures that are made of various types of vascular and dermal and ground tissue combine together to create a structure that can perform a particular complex task. All right, that was short, but we are done for tonight. Next time, we will discuss organ systems and how all of these levels of organization eventually come together to make an organism. See you then, and don't forget to take your Quizmodo.